Rams Cardinals preview, etc. on this live edition of Locked On Cardinals on Friday.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. So a lot's happened since we've talked. Okay, did a fantastic crossover episode yesterday with Travis Rogers of Locked On Rams. Unfortunately, because it was a Thursday and the night before was Hard Knocks, I didn't get the opportunity to give my Hard Knocks thoughts. I was going to do a separate podcast, but decided just to do it as part of today's. Tarantinoing it, looking at the last segment first. Cardinals have a very, very big matchup in SoFi Stadium against the Rams on Sunday, pretty much to save their season. Okay, we'll talk about that in the final segment. But Hard Knocks was absolutely fascinating for so many different reasons. And first off, didn't really tell us a whole lot. And I feel like that's the story of the Arizona Cardinals. And another thing is that NFL Films is, the 0.1%. They like the cinematography and the actual filming and everything of it, the exposure they get, like it's wild. It's wild. It was such a great watch. So some of the fun stuff, seeing Cliff's house was cool. I guess a murder mystery guy. All right. That's kind of one of his claim to fame, is one of his calling cards so far with his tenure as an Arizona Cardinal head coach, is his pad. It came out during draft day, during the pandemic. And, now it's become a thing. A couple of the important takeaways to me, and I'm going to get to the most important in a second, but a couple takeaways to me is that Budda Baker is the bona fide leader of this team. And I knew that, but we're not in there every day. So Budda Baker is as genuine a personality as you can get, leader-wise, demeanor-wise. He's the perfect mix of fierce and jovial. And he's just a joy to watch on the field. And I'm really happy that they put a spotlight on him during the first episode, because you know what? He's just a joy. He's just a joy. I interviewed him and Chase Edmonds a couple of years ago in front of Larry Fitzgerald's charity event. And it's just like the huge smile just beams off. Like, he's just a good dude. Just a good dude who's really good at playing football. And he is the bona fide leader of this team. And I don't think that that's really in question, at least on the defense. And, he's hobbled now. And without their leader, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this defense. One of the best jokes, J.J. Watt sees Budda Baker go give knuckles to a young girl and who was wearing a Budda Baker jersey. J.J. Watt says, "Oh, same size jersey," and they laugh. The good parts about the interpersonal communication with this team is great. It's great. Just unfortunate that they're not winning. So that the Budda Baker thing was fantastic. Selfishly, just as, I host a podcast for this team. I've been in sports radio for 12 years in Phoenix, but it's like getting those little, excerpts of people's lives. I just fanboyed on Budda Baker because he's great. And hopefully the Cardinals will lock him up, in the next year or two. So where he'll retire a Cardinal, where he won't go the way of Tyrann Mathieu, another beloved safety with this team. And I don't think it will. I think Budda Baker is going to be an Arizona Cardinal through and through. So that's one. Number two, didn't get a lot from Cliff, one way or the other. And that's pretty much status quo. He went over the standings for 10 minutes in the NFC West, and he did simple math. If we win these next two games, he said, we're right in it. It's like, okay. Really, really hard pressing stuff there. I just didn't get a lot from him. Pretty vanilla, pretty what we see in press conferences is what we saw with him. Now, obviously, they're not going to divulge all the information that happens in the inner workings of a team in the middle of a season. I completely understand that. But I didn't know what I was expecting from Cliff. I go into it with an open mind. I will say, I disclaim everything by saying I hope that he turns this season around and he becomes one of the best coaches in Cardinals history. I hope that happens because I'm sick of talking about it with kind of a negative slant. But in the first episode of Hard Knocks, was like, yeah, that's Cliff. Okay. There's no secret here. That's exactly what we knew before we turned it on HBO Max on Tuesday or Wednesday. I didn't learn anything. And that's not good nor bad. It's just is. It's Cliff Kingsbury. That's who we know him to be. We'll see as this season progresses and as the episodes come out, when things become potentially more tenuous, potentially more positive. We don't know, but this is the perfect time for there to be cameras from HBO and NFL Films around the Arizona Cardinals. It's fascinating one way or the other. And then the third thing this is the big one. Seattle, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray screaming at each other on the sidelines. It's the perfect mix of this stuff happens and is there a bigger deal here? Kyler Murray missed DeAndre Hopkins wide open, which looked to be as close to a walk-in touchdown as you're going to get in the NFL. That's what it looked like. And that's pissed off DeAndre Hopkins, rightfully so. He's like, I'm here to win. And yeah, and I think it Jody Ayler from Fox Sports 910. I used to work with him. He said something interesting about that on his show this morning. You have the Twitter football guy who's like, oh, this happens in locker rooms all the time. It's like, okay, yeah, I guess, but this being able to actually hear what they're saying is awesome. I mean, it's awesome. It wasn't the best, communication between the two of them, like the topic that they were talking about. But if you've loved sports more than 10 minutes, you get to hear what the players are saying on the sidelines when you're not there in as tenuous of a moment as that. Yeah, that's awesome. That's popcorn stuff. And the fact that we got to see that shows that I feel like if people were listless and if they were yelling at each other on the field, it's different than two people getting in a spat, quarterback and wide receiver one on a missed opportunity. I feel like that was truly just a momentary thing. And they'll be fine. Like, it'll move on. I don't think there's going to be anything lingering from that, but it was just fascinating. That was like the biggest thing that I took out because, again, not a whole lot from Cliff, not a whole lot from Kyler, aside from the fact, oh no, he actually does watch film. It's like, it's unbelievable. Oh, and for the people who think, well, he watches film because Hard Knocks is there. Stop it. Right now, immediately, stop it. Thank you. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. I'm going to wrap up this conversation a little bit in the next segment. I'm going to talk about Michael Bidwell watching game film with Cliff and Vance, and then pivot into Friday's the most important segment is the game on Sunday against the hobbled Rams team. I'm going to hit all of it. I'm going to do it all. That's how we do it here on Locked On Cardinals, your team every day, wrapping up Hard Knocks conversation and then pivoting into Michael Bidwell and pivoting into the game on Sunday. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. LinkedIn, okay? LinkedIn is something that I know intimately because I used to be on LinkedIn a lot looking for jobs, networking, doing things like that. But if you've got a company and you need help with, employees and things like that, LinkedIn Jobs can help, okay? So you make a post, you add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. There's simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires for its leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. It was cool. It was cool seeing the other coaches. Yeah, Arizona Animal. Yeah. Position coach Billy Davis challenging LBs. Yes. To outwork Budda. Absolutely. Like, seeing the other position coaches talking to their position group was fascinating. It's like there wasn't, too much divulged, but it was just fascinating to see the inner workings of an organization, and one that we know as intimately as, as we can, being the home team. And it was fun. It was like, oh man, it was just, I watched it twice. It's just like, this stuff doesn't come around very often. This intimate look. Steve Trout, who was executive director of this, was also the executive director of All or Nothing on Amazon during the 2015 season. So he knows this team well. And it's crazy just to see round two. It's really fun to watch. So again, my takeaways: Budda Baker is the leader of this team. I got nothing wrong with that. He's one of the more incredibly fun and easygoing people to watch. Like, from my perspective, it's effortless. Just to hear him talk, to hear him, yell after the loss, and then, with his sister and his mom, it's like, it's just great. I mean, he's just a fun dude to cover in, in some capacity, and to watch on Sundays. It's great. Second thing, didn't get a whole lot out of Cliff. Fine. Talked about the NFC West standings for way too long. That was about 7 minutes I'd like to have back in my life. And then, the Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins spat on the sidelines, just hearing the words was, again, popcorn stuff for me. And also, I don't think it was super telling, and I don't think there's anything really to tell. It's just two guys. One person was wide open. The other person didn't throw him the football, and they didn't score a touchdown on that play. And I think that was all that was. There's another report out that Michael Bidwell watches film with Vance Joseph and Cliff Kingsbury after every game. And I'm sure this happens with owners. Owners want, to have a say in, with all of the money that they have invested into an organization, even though they're probably making more money than what they invested. But they want to be protecting their investment. They want to know what's going on. And the thing I stumble with here is, like, how does that conversation go with those three? It's like, okay, well, the offense looks like it sleepwalked through the first quarter of the first 6 games this year. So the conversations are like, well, why didn't you score more points? Well, look at the film here. This is all the mistakes that we made. Michael Bidwell is not a football person. He owns a football team. His dad's owned the football team when he was still alive. Like, he was born into this life for sure. But, like, the X's and O's is something that seems a little bit outside of the confines of an owner's acumen. So what is he going to add that would be enough texture to help the head coach and the associate head coach of the Arizona Cardinals? Like, that's the fascinating part to me. I don't really understand, like, for sure. I don't think Michael Bidwell's overstepping by doing that. And I'm sure other owners do it. You think Jerry Jones isn't watching film with the coach? Like, come on. But, like, it's just a weird group to be in the same room watching film together with Michael Bidwell there. Obviously, with Vance Joseph and Cliff Kingsbury, that's norm. But I don't know. When I heard that, I was just like, huh? Like, okay, sure. I mean, I'm sure it happens. But what are you looking to gain out of that, three-way of film watching? What are you looking to gain? How to get better? Are you asking Michael Bidwell for tips? Or is he coming down and doing a progress report on why the hell the Cardinals aren't winning more games? And why does film need to be involved? Why do they need to show, well, this is why we lost this game, said Cliff to Mr. Bidwell. He watches the games. So, like, I don't know. It was just interesting. Before I get into the actual X's and O's of Sunday, I got to talk about this too. Both quarterbacks are going to be hobbled. Matthew Stafford may not play. Concussion protocol, seemingly out of nowhere. Kyler Murray tweaked his hamstring. We saw it also on Hard Knocks in season, where after that long run, he's like, oh, it bit, or whatever he said, and the team member knew what he was talking about. So Kyler Murray and injuries is a thing. Patrick Mahomes has missed a lot of games too. Okay. So not a lot of games, but he's missed a handful of games. Aaron Rodgers missed almost a whole season with a broken collarbone. Elite quarterbacks miss games at times. Tom Brady ruined it for everybody except for when he got rolled up on in week 1, 14 years ago. He's played every game. Phillip Rivers played through an AFC Championship game on a torn ACL. But Kyler Murray, especially if Matthew Stafford's out. But even if he's not, Kyler's got to play through it. Unless he's hurt, you don't want anybody to ever it's easy for me to say sitting in my living room right now saying you got to play. It's well, I'm hurt. It's well, you got to play. That's not what I'm saying. It's more if Kyler's at 85 or 90%, he needs to play. The Cardinals need to win. He's their best option at quarterback. Right? He needs to play. And when it comes to injuries, when it comes to things of this nature, it's just a little unsettling that when he goes down, everybody thinks he's going to get injured right away. And as of right now, he's a game time decision. And if he's out, Colt McCoy, it's your show. But game time decision is something that and let me reiterate here. If Kyler's 90%, he's got to play. If he's 80%, he's got to play. He protect him, move the pocket, build a game plan. This is where Cliff Kingsbury is so monumental and instrumental in how to keep Kyler Murray from getting sacked, especially when he's hurt, especially with Aaron Donald on the other side. But if there's a golden opportunity, if Matthew Stafford doesn't play, and while I'm recording this, Matthew Stafford's still up in the air if he's going to play or not. If there's a golden opportunity to go up against John Wolford and Kyler sits and the Cardinals lose, it's going to be tough to stomach. If he's hurt, yeah. I'm not saying, if your leg's going to fall off, don't play. But it's going to be difficult to stomach if John Wolford starts and the Cardinals lose this game in any capacity. But if Kyler Murray does sit, because here's the thing. There is one thing that needs to be avoided when it comes to determining if Kyler Murray needs to play or not on Sunday. There's one thing. You know what that thing is? It's what we call a tease, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk about that next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. But I will talk to you about who this podcast is sponsored by, SimpliSafe. If you've thought about securing your home with home security, but you've been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On Cardinals listeners can order the number one rated SimpliSafe home security system for 50% off, man. That's the biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. This is what SimpliSafe does that separates themselves from the rest. Okay, first of all, SimpliSafe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report, a third year in a row. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe to capture critical evidence and verify if a threat is real so you can get priority police response. SimpliSafe is a whole home security with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and out, smarter ways to detect motion that alert you only when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors that detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. 24/7 professional monitoring service costs less than $1 a day, less than half the price of ADT's traditional professionally installed system. And with the top-rated SimpliSafe app, stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere. Arm or disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust settings. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system I recommend. Get 50% off any new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL. This is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That's simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL. There's no safe like SimpliSafe, and I am Super excited, as always, to talk about a local sponsor here, My Solar Nerd. Okay? Their mission is simple. Help you get the best solar system to fit your needs. The guys at mysolarnerd.com are local and understand the nuances going into solar. They've been doing this for a while and understand that an educated customer is a happy customer. Their no-pressure approach will make sure all your questions get answered. They firmly believe that if you live in Arizona, switching to solar should mean saving money. And once you're ready, they put their industry knowledge to work for you by choosing the best equipment, warranties, and Better Business Bureau accredited installer. They'll also help you figure out all the credits and incentives you may qualify for, and they'll make sure that your transition to solar is as smooth as possible by managing the entire project for you and keeping you updated along the way. Our listeners here at Locked On Cardinals will get a $50 Amazon gift card when they book a no-commitment evaluation. This promotion is only for our listeners that are homeowners. Visit mysolarnerd.com. Select Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us section. Make the switch to solar on your terms. Start the research process by visiting mysolarnerd.com today and show Locked On some love by letting them know we sent you. Folks, going into solar doesn't need to be complicated. mysolarnerd.com makes it easy. Woof. There are so many storylines going. Wait, what's going on here? Am I missing something as I'm recording this? The quarterback injuries are. This is going to make a very, very interesting texture to a game that means so much for both teams. And I teased before the break that there's one thing that needs to be avoided when deciding if Kyler Murray is going to play or not. The one thing that should not be a determining factor on if Kyler Murray plays or not is if Matthew Stafford plays or not. If Matthew Stafford doesn't play, and it looks like he's trending to not play. I mean, again, as I'm recording this at 12:22 local time on Friday, things can change. The determining factor should not be if Matthew Stafford plays or not. So describing that. If Matthew Stafford doesn't play, it'll be easier for the Cardinals to say, you know what, Kyler, sit this one out, Colt McCoy, take it over. No. This should be determined only on Kyler Murray's health level and not what the Rams do. Be proactive, not reactionary. Because the easy way to do it is, star quarterback's hurt. John Wolford is going to come in. You think that the Cardinals defense, even if Budda Baker's out and Colt McCoy leading the charge, should get a victory over John Wolford-led Rams, even though John Wolford was the starting quarterback in the last week of the year last year, 2 years ago, that knocked the Cardinals out of the playoffs. Who the quarterback is for the Rams should not be the determining factor on if Kyler Murray plays or not. Bottom line. Keys to victory for the Cardinals. Regardless of who the quarterback is. I've talked about it all week. I talked about it with Travis Rogers on the Crossover podcast yesterday. If you haven't listened to that, he's the best. Dude, we have such a good time talking about both of our respective teams and the matchups when they play. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Check it out. They have to rattle whoever the quarterback is. They've got to send an extra rusher as much as they can. Because the thing is that as good as Cooper Kupp is, and he's great, he's a 1%er. He's a top 3 receiver in the league. Could be the best, could be second best, whatever. It doesn't really matter when you're at the top. He's not a true deep threat. So, blitzing means less people in coverage, means a better chance of a deep ball, especially if Budda Baker's out. I think that it doesn't matter. I think that if you can cut the head of the snake off and you can get to the quarterback and you can rattle their cage and you can, allow them not, whoever it is, it's either Bryce Perkins or John Wolford or Matthew Stafford. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Got to get to him. Got to get to him a lot and often. That's got to be the game plan, in my opinion. That's the most important key to victory for the Cardinals. And then obviously scoring points on offense, it helps. If you can score more points than the other team, you got a pretty good chance of winning. But defensively, got to get to the quarterback. Got to. I mean, if that means sending Isaiah Simmons, like, I don't know why they haven't moved him outside yet. I know that he doesn't have the exact build for an edge rusher. I know that. I know he's not a perfect stencil, but he's not a perfect stencil for anything. So with how strong he is and how smart he is and how just fast he is, why not just let him see quarterback, hit quarterback? That's me, okay? I've never coached before, but I watch Isaiah Simmons be lost in certain situations, and this is year 3, and they still can't figure it out. Simplify it. See quarterback, hit quarterback. Rinse and repeat. He's young, he's fast, he's strong, he's smart. Go let him do it. Why not start on Sunday? We've seen flashes. We haven't seen the potency that I've been, pounding the table for 2 years. That's one. Number 2, if Kyler Murray does play, and I'm assuming he will. Cliff loves saying game time decision. I'm assuming Kyler Murray is going to play. We've got to see a level up. Because if the Cardinals go into SoFi and beat a team that hasn't been good this year, Travis Rogers said it himself, they've been bad. I don't know if that was, I'm paraphrasing. He said they haven't been very good this year. I mean, offensively, it's been bad. The Cardinals were the better team on the field for 2.5 quarters when they played earlier in the season. They just couldn't score touchdowns. They beat the bejesus out of the Rams last year at SoFi. So if the Cardinals can go from 3-6 to getting a victory on the road against an interdivisional opponent who won the Super Bowl last year, who's hobbled, and regardless of who quarterback is, that's a big deal. Their first division win, moves them out of the cellar, sets up a huge matchup on Monday night in Mexico City against San Francisco next week. Seattle loses to Tampa Bay. Chargers could beat the 49ers. This is a massive week for NFC West teams. Interdivisional with the Cardinals and Rams, and then 2 tough opponents for both the Seahawks and the 49ers. The Cardinals can go into SoFi and win. If Kyler Murray can level up offensively and really start to get back to where he was for the first 7 to 10 weeks of last season, the season could change. The season could change. It still can change. This is not a lost season yet. And the yet is the margin just starting to thin by the second. 2 keys to victory on Sunday. Get after the quarterback, whoever it is, for the LA Rams. Kyler Murray needs to level up, and they need to score a lot of touchdowns. Change everything. It could change in a 60-minute football game. And I hope it does. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I will talk to you at halftime on Twitter Spaces and right here on YouTube. If you don't follow me on Twitter, that's fine. Just make a Twitter account, search at Clancy's Corner, join me for the halftime show, and join me here. Turn the notifications on so you know when I pop on to talk at halftime and then post game. Thank you for listening. Alex Clancy.